It also lets you add to your mental map and the in-game map, which will prove useful later. And most importantly, while this lower area is a dead end in terms of progression, it's not entirely a waste. There are items to find that boost your health and your ammo, there's an unlockable relic that lets you breathe underwater, and all sorts of items and swords and shields that you might fancy using. But this diversion can be a touch confusing, and leave players wondering if they're just missing something, or should cut their losses and explore somewhere else. Anyway.
What? Castlevania being confusing as to where you need to go in order to progress? That's never happened before.
Actual correct path is the Royal Chapel, and this...
If you're bad at the game. Am I right, fellas? Going through the chapel? What are you, a noob?
area really shows how Symphony is filled with distinct, memorable locations. This massive staircase and these giant bell towers and this epic stained glass room are all very eye-catching, and it's completely different to every other place on the map. This really helps with your mental organization of the castle's layout, and the world design is similar to Dark Souls.
Bruh. We still comparing everything to Dark Souls back in 2018, I guess.
In its variety. At the top of the Royal Chapel is the Leap Stone, which lets you double jump, and the game opens up a fair bit again. Here's how much of the castle we could explore a second
It was a
ago,
simpler time,
and here's
true.
how much we can explore now.
If we can go back, I would 100% go back. I was looking at the map. I'm like, is this accurate? Yeah, I think this is pretty accurate. Yeah, I would happily go back. Well, okay. With just Leapstone, getting up here is pretty unlikely. You know what I mean? Technically you're correct. You can go to Holy Sword with just Leapstone if you dive kick off of the Blade Masters, but come on, no one's going to be doing that in a casual playthrough. It's the Elden Ring of Metroidvania, is true.
We have the Leapstone. Again, though, the game gives us a bunch of places we can explore that actually end up being dead ends. We can pop into the catacombs, but we can't go on without the Echo of Bat power-up.
If you're bad.
We can now jump across these areas in the castle keep, but we can't reach Dracula's room. And we can explore more of the long library, but we're stymied by this grate. This time, however, it's way more painful because the actual path forward is really tricky to find. It's actually here, in this clock room at the center of the castle. Only the path only opens up once every other minute or something, so you could completely miss that there even is a path when you first visit the room. I certainly did.
Well... That's not true, technically, because when you first enter the room, the statue will always move during the cutscene where you talk to Maria. He probably even shows off the cutscene near the beginning of the game, yeah? Does he not talk about talking to Maria at the start of the game? No? Well, maybe he intentionally edited it out just to make sure that this point still worked, but yeah.
And there's no strong association between...
No.
being
Wow.
able to jump higher and this...
Bro, you're showing the cutscene!
It's not like Super Metroid where you know you want to jump up to this spooky face.
During the
and this
cutscene,
box
it
room.
opens,
like
bro.
Super Metroid.
Granted, if your argument is, okay, but I haven't been back in this room or I don't remember that cutscene because it happened like 10 hours ago or 5 hours ago in my gameplay, that's a valid reason.
Where you know
But saying that there's literally zero hints is just objectively false.
you want to jump up to this spooky face, but you just can't leap high enough yet. Okay, so if you actually do find your way up here, you'll get to the Colosseum and can unlock the Mist power-up. Unlike before, there's only 2 places where you can use it. One takes you into a single room with a couple items, the other immediately gives us the next power-up, the Form of Bat. If you forgot about those areas though, or hadn't seen them before now, it's going to be hard to find them. Symphony of the Night has a large world map, and it opens up quickly. It's kind of like Metroid 1, in that after only getting a couple critical...
Yo, what's up, Dave? Happy Thursday.
...with so many places to check in order to find the path forward.
Ew, Metroid 1, nobody cares, gross. Actually, by the way, I've never played Metroid 1. Should I try and play through it with like a guide or with some help from chat? If anybody's like a huge Metroid 1 fan, I wouldn't be opposed to like playing it with some help, but I don't think I would go in blind and try and play through with no guide.
At this point in
I've
the
just
game,
never tried to
I
play it,
personally
really.
found myself just sort of poking at unexplored bits of the map. You know, I'd spot doors that I haven't been through yet and rooms that I haven't checked off, and just went over there to see if I could make a little extra progress. I also started to notice how a lot of the rooms...
Funny story, progression. I was playing Bloodstain for the first time. I set the blood to white because a friend asked it be, so I absolutely no other reason. Guess who never realized that the fountain was a blood fountain? No, it's a cum fountain. I don't know. Maybe this guy has a guide? Maybe.
Are quite boring to backtrack through. The wolf power-up started to notice how a lot of the rooms are quite boring to backtrack through.
That's
the
fair.
Wolf power-up and its upgrades certainly help, and the fast travel points that are dotted around the map speed things up also.
Start
Once
wing
you get the bat
smashing,
power-up,
noob.
The game opens up even more. This is only the 4th critical power-up, but now you can explore pretty much the entire castle and go off and explore loads of new routes. In fact, while you can get 5 relics at the beginning of the game, 3 after getting the Jewel of Open, 2 after getting the Leap Stone.
This is why the randomizer works, by the way, is because you get access to so many different relic locations with so few options. All you need is 1 or 2 options, and like the whole castle becomes available to you. That's why Symphony of the Night works well as a randomizer, because you have a different playthrough every single time with different relics.
And
it
after
works.
getting the Mist form, you can now go get a whopping 10 different relics with the bat, littered all over the castle. It might have been nice to spread them out a bit more across the game. One other place we can go with the bat is to Dracula's Keep, and fight Richter, and end the game. Wait.
The end of the game,
What?
let's go!
Oh yes, the classic bad ending fake out. Hopefully at this point you'll realise that the ending was a bit anticlimactic, and that there's loads more of the castle to explore, and Richter probably isn't a bad guy. And so you should probably load up your save game and see what else you can find. I really like this idea. It makes the game...
I've heard so many stories of people who are like, I beat the game, I killed Richter, that's it. Bye-bye. Have I seen the Josh Strife Hayes video yet? No, I don't believe I have. That name does not sound familiar to me. I'm not opposed to watching it at some point.
Feel mysterious and surprising, and it encourages some proper exploration off the beaten track. Like, maybe you'll fly down here and find this gold ring. It's relatively easy to find, and it's got an interesting item description. Where... ... clock.
Bro, if he compares this to Dark Souls again, like reading item descriptions and shit like that, I'm gonna laugh really fun. I've never played the Bloodstain rando.
Description?
Bro! I called it! Bro! I swear to fucking God. I haven't watched this video since it came out, so I forgot whether or not he compared it to Dark Souls, but it's just like, come on, bro. This game came out fucking like 10 years before Dark Souls came out. Why did Igarashi rip off Dark Souls so much? That's what I've been saying. Until you realize it takes a solid hour to find anything that you actually need. I might try Bloodstain Randomizer at some point. I've never really tried it, though. I just kind of stopped playing Bloodstain, to be honest, but whatever.
That certainly reminds me of something. The other ring is a lot harder to find. You need to go here and get the Echo of Bat, then go down into the catacombs and fly through this dark corridor. This gives you the Spike Breaker, so you can go all the way back up here and get the Silver Ring. Put the 2 item descriptions together, and they say, where in Clock Tower. So you do just that.
This is not... I'm very upset because he complains about finding Colosseum is difficult, but he doesn't complain the fact that there's an area called the Clock Tower in the video game with big text that pops up that says Clock Tower. Meanwhile, the items that say where in Clock Tower, you actually have to wear them in the Marble Gallery. But he doesn't complain about that. If it said where in Clock Room, that would be different. But it says Clock Tower, which is its own separate area. Like, he's complaining about the wrong things here.
A new area opens up, and Maria gives you a special item that lets you see that Richter is being controlled by Shaft. Kill him, and something absolutely bonkers happens. The game isn't over yet.
Whoa!
By a long shot, because there's an entirely new castle to explore.
Bro, the shit goes
Well,
upside
it's just
down.
like the old one actually, only it's now upside down and filled with harder enemies. Personally, I found this section to be totally lame.
What?
Traversal is really annoying unless you go everywhere in bat form.
That's the most fun thing. Just wing smash. Get good, you noob.
There's no longer any real surprises about what rooms will be around the next corner, and pacing-wise, I just kind of wanted the whole thing to be done by this point. It felt like this annoying extra epilogue that I didn't want to bother with. What I do like, however, is that the only mission in this part of the game is to hunt down 5 items.
Yeah, the rings confused
eye,
me as a kid as
tooth,
well.
Rib, and heart of Vlad. And you can do them in any order, where the beginning part of the game is strictly linear, get the jewel, then the leapstone, then the mist, then the bat. The latter half is more open. Now you're familiar with the game, you can get the gold and silver rings in either order, and can get the 5 pieces of Vlad in any order you like.
Yeah,
This
the game
is what
opens
I
up.
wanted in Super Metroid, where I said it would be cool to let you fight the last 3 bosses in any order. And it's
You can. Just get good, bro. Why are you complaining about Super Metroid not letting you fight bosses in any order when there's literally a reverse boss order category? Just get good, bro.
similar
what
to
the
the
fuck?
4 Lord Souls at the end of Dark Souls. If you get all those pieces of Vlad, you can finally fight the actual final boss of the game
It's
and
like,
see the proper
Why do you
ending.
want everything to be Dark Souls? I don't get it. We get it. You like Dark Souls.
So, Symphony of the Night is a thrilling game. Its gothic castle spills out in all directions, with distinct areas, gruesome bosses, and tons of tiny.
To be fair, this was the period of time, 2018, where every single indie Metroidvania was just Dark Souls again. I feel like this was the peak, like, everything has to be Dark Souls. Dark Souls is perfect game design. Everything Dark Souls platformer, Dark Souls Metroidvania, Dark Souls puzzle game, Dark Souls, like,
surprises.
I don't know, man.
But I think it makes a pretty fundamental.
It's kind of
sense.
stale at this point, in my
It
opinion.
allows a lot of exploration by opening up the castle very quickly as you unlock key abilities, and I admire that. I like how it's so open. But because the first half of the game sticks to a very linear structure, it means you can be wandering around a huge castle for ages, just finding loads of dead ends while you're looking for the.
Unironically, I would love to play a Dark Souls dating sim. That would be so funny. Dude, I'm just trying to romance Nito, you know what I'm saying?
One single location you can go to next to make any meaningful progress. Of course, there's lots of other things you can find in those dead ends, like relics and items and health potions, but a lot of that stuff is pretty pointless because the game is so easy, and because most of the swords, shields, and armor will be actual trash in comparison to the stuff you're already carrying. So ultimately, it's a game that is at once both really open and really closed, and that can lead to some frustration. I hope that didn't come off too harsh. There's loads.
It's not, no. I think that's a fair, I missed the first 5 minutes, but I think this is a pretty fair estimation of, like, the game. Like, Symphony of the Night is not a perfect game, and I will not sit here and try and defend it as a perfect game. So having problems with it makes a lot of sense. And these videos are all really good that Game Maker's Toolkit makes.
Symphony of the Night. It just makes a few stumbles in its well design that other games might want to avoid. And games have definitely been taking inspiration. New indie releases like Chasm and...
Bro, Chasm is such a disappointment of a video game. Oh my god, I wanted Chasm to be good so bad. Have you guys played Chasm? Oh my god. One of the most beautiful, like the sprite work and the inspiration based off of Castlevania is so clear. And then the actual game aspect is just so boring.
And Time Spinners are totally influenced by Symphony.
You like Chasm? My issue with Chasm is everything is randomly generated, which is an issue. So the actual game design feels weird because the game is where the game was designed where you beat the game, but every single room is procedurally generated. Basically, it's kind of like a rogue-like type system where like the rooms and where they connect to are different every time you play, which unfortunately for an entire Metroidvania means that you have to build a bunch of cookie cutter rooms that don't flow well together because the design of the game is having them randomly shuffled together, if that makes sense. For one. And for two, mechanically, the game wants to be like Castlevania, but it's so much more stiff and rigid than any Castlevania game that I have ever played. So
New indie releases like Chasm.
That's my like 5-second rant about Chasm. But I have a video of me playing it on my stream from like 4 years ago.
Are totally influenced by Symphony, and I swear there's a little of this in Dark Souls as well. Plus, the entire Castlevania series pretty much exclusively shifted towards this style of level design in games like Aria of Sorrow and Portrait of Ruin. Players just needed a way to differentiate.
But I love to play it. Hey, if you like the game, go for it.
Games from the more linear ones of.
I just have my own opinions on it. That's all.
One player suggested, a little snarkily, to call them Castlevanias and Metroidvanias, and it stuck, giving us a name for all sorts of games that fit this level layout. And speaking of Metroid, that's where we're going to next for our first 3D game of this season, the GameCube's wonderful Metroid Prime.
Well, not us, because we're going to be playing some video games. All right, good game, or good video. I enjoyed it. Let's start over.
What is a man?
This should be plenty loud, right?
Pile of secrets.
Good.
Oh, that's where that phrase comes from. You know, I've heard people
This should be
quoting
good.
that for years, but never actually knew the origin of it. Ladies and
I'll
gentlemen,
actually mute
welcome.
the
I'm
game
Dr.
sounds
Hayes,
as
and
well
today
for you
we are
guys.
replaying the classic PlayStation 1 game Castlevania Symphony of the Night and asking the question, was it any good? Well, I say replaying because for me this isn't a replay. It's a first play because I've never played this. I know, I'm ashamed of me too.
Then why do you
I
say
had
replay?
PlayStation 1, I just never had this game. And I know it's always included in top 10 PlayStation 1 games lists, but I never found the time as a kid. So after spending the last 2 days finishing the entire game, and I do mean the entire game, including the inverted castle, let's have a chat about this classic side-scrolling RPG action-adventure game. In this video, I'm going to talk about the individual design elements that make up the game, and then take you on a journey of my complete playthrough and show you all the parts that stood out to me. The bosses, the hidden rooms, and the super secret hidden ending. And then we'll talk about the whole experience. As usual, a massive thank you to the Patreon supporters and Twitch subs who keep the channels going.
Intent, cough, cough. Thank you to the 500 Twitch subs and 100 or so Patreon subs for me. Hey, what about me? Hey, cool, awesome.
On how you can support at the end. For now, let's begin. Symphony of the Night opens with a cutscene. It's 1792 in Romania and we're off to kill Dracula. The opening has you controlling a maxed out, fully powered up Richter Belmont as you storm into Dracula's keep and fight the final boss. Controls are simple but responsive. Left, right, duck, jump, and attack. You can also change movement direction mid-air, which is kind of important later on when the screen is full of enemies and projectiles. The opening Dracula fight kind of throws you in at the deep end. You've got your trusty whip and a few special weapons we'll talk about later. But the most important aspect of this fight is you can't fail. Even if you do die, which you probably will on your first attempt, a little girl will appear, cheer you on, and this makes you invulnerable.
Little girl?
Also, the 3D background effect during the second half after the vampiric transformation is awesome. And the quality of the actual graphics is something we'll come back to later. So Dracula dies, but then it's 4 years later.
Wait a minute.
And bad stuff is stirring up.
What version? Are you playing on an emulator? What are you... I'm trying to figure out what version they're playing on, because this...
Fail.
It looks like an emulator with like smoothing on or something, because it doesn't look like PS1.
You probably will on your first attempt. A little girl will appear, cheer you on, and this makes you invulnerable.
No, it is PS1. I think it's an emulator with some sort of smoothing on.
The quality of the actual graphics is something...
I always, like when somebody plays the game, I always try and figure out for myself what version they're playing on. It looks like they're playing PS1 on an emulator with some sort of smoothing.
We'll come back to later. So Dracula dies, but then it's 4 years later and bad stuff is stirring up again, so we take control of the actual hero,
What's up, Bopo?
Alucard. Now, if you've seen the amazing
Yeah, it's the correct
Netflix
sound effects too.
Castlevania show,
69 HP, guys.
yes, that Alucard.
69
Symphony of
HP.
the Night even talks about how many years before Alucard and Richter Belmont's ancestor, Trevor Belmont, took down Vlad Tepes together. Alucard appears in this gorgeous parallax scrolling forest running through it. Parallax scrolling is a classic gaming technique of having various layers of background and foreground scrolling at different speeds to give the illusion of depth. And this game uses it so well. Just like the Richter start, we begin with maxed equipment. Alucard is here to destroy the castle to prevent Dracula being resurrected, and the opening level has you one-hitting high-level enemies and just blitzing through the beautiful ground.
I wouldn't call them
walls.
high-level
Eventually, you
enemies,
meet
but
Death,
whatever.
Who asks you to stop trying to destroy the castle and says even though he can't
Maybe
make
video
you
encoding?
stop supporting humans, he'd like you to
It could be
stop
the capture
trying to
card if they're
destroy
playing on
him.
console
And
as
you
well.
Say, nah, still gonna do it. So he takes away all of your awesome equipment and leaves you weak and feeble, and now the game begins. Your only real goal is to reach the top of the castle, the same room Richter fought Dracula in, and destroy the castle. Now how you get up there is up to you. My only real experience of Castlevania Symphony of the Night comes from this very quick soundbite from YouTuber Zero Punctuation. In his video talking about Dark Souls, he mentions that
how many times are we going to watch a Symphony of the Night video where they're going to compare it to Dark Souls?
in Dark Souls, a game I love, you are free to explore and there are multiple routes to success similar to Symphony of the Night. In fact, the exact quote is this.
And then it hit me, that's Symphony of the Night thinking, and I love Symphony of the Night.
So I was approaching this as a massive Dark Souls fan and looking for similarities, and it did not disappoint me. Early on, an enemy dropped a weapon, a short sword, which I equipped because this game is a light RPG, and then later another weapon, a two-handed sword, which I equipped and discovered this made me dodge slower. Okay, I think I'm seeing it. Castle covered.
That's not even true.
Me dodge slower.
No. Your backdash isn't affected by your weapon like at all outside of shield dashing. So they must have I think that's crazy. They are so into Dark Souls. Yeah, he must mean that the attack animation is slower, right? Because they must be so into Dark Souls that they like incepted the idea of a slower dodge into their own brain because of different like that's some Dark Souls thinking right there. That they like incepted that idea. Yes, different weapons have different swing animations, but I feel like that's like a common like video game thing to say. I don't know. That's weird. That's a little strange, but I mean, whatever.
Okay, I think I'm seeing it. Castlevania is an action RPG which focuses more on the action. The RPG elements are more for mechanical game progression and not necessarily about character strength. You've got loads of weapons, armor, shields, spells, rings, and amulets, and while most do boost your attack or defense in some way, the game is much more about skill than stats. Killing enemies also levels you up, and level ups increase your health and damage, but again, the stat boosts are there to support your skill, not carry you through. This is an action skill-based game with light RPG elements. So let's talk about death, because you will die a lot, and when you do, oh, the blood. Symphony of Night is happy to take what few pixels it does have and spray them just everywhere. Death is a spectacle. And when you die, it's
lots of
game
blood.
over. I hope you saved, because we are back in...
Yo, Retro Runner, thanks for the raid. If you're curious as to like what the hell is going on, I am currently, because we reached a previous sub goal, I am doing a 100-hour grind playthrough of Symphony of the Night, where my goal is to get this weapon, the Muramasa, to max damage. It currently has 364 damage out of 999. And by doing so, the only way to level it up is to absorb blood. Since this is going to take 100 hours, I figured we'd watch a video talking about Symphony of the Night in the background. Because, I mean, we got nothing better to do. So sit back and enjoy.
Saves, no autosaves. It's a case of manually finding a save room, which are these rooms filled with giant spinning dice, and saving. This also refills your health. Pressing select brings up a map of the castle showing the rooms you've already explored. It also highlights the save rooms in red, and later on when you find them, the transport rooms in orange. The map is vital in navigating, and later in the game you'll be spending more time on this screen working out where to go than you will actually killing stuff.
True.
The core of the gameplay loop is a nice even split of side-scrolling exploration.
Love the runs, love the YouTube content. Navigation. Yeah, no sweat it, man. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And thank you for the raid. How was stream? Hopefully it went well. Arrived late yet again. No worries. We're going to be doing the same grind for another 90 hours, so we got about 10 hours of grinding in last time we did this last stream. So we still have like 90 hours left to go. So we got plenty of this to go. I'm going to be doing a little bit here and there every stream.
For combat, there's a wealth of enemies to take down, with each of them having different attack patterns and styles. Some rush you, some dodge back, most throw things at you. And you'll quickly learn that avoiding being hit is far better long-term than trying to tank damage, because you can get stun-locked. One enemy hits you into another. You have a very brief invulnerability period, and then another hit into another enemy. And before you know it, your health is gone. While fighting, you've got whatever weapon you want to equip, and whatever
Stream was good, Ninja got in D-Rust, nice.
Another weapon, a two-handed weapon, or a shield. Shields block most projectiles, but won't protect you from enemy magic or melee attacks. Each weapon has a different range, attack animation time, cooldown time, and elemental effect, so it's a case of not only finding one good against any given enemy or boss, but also a weapon you like the playstyle of.
Yep.
Huge two-handed swords have great range and do good damage, but they swing slowly and lock you in place while attacking. swinging. Shorter weapons swing faster and have a shorter animation and a shorter range, but they do less damage. It's about finding a weapon you enjoy, what works for you. Well, until you find the combat knife, which is absolutely utterly bonkers and broken because it swings as fast as you can press the button and has no animation lock. The balancing in this game is sometimes questionable. Oh, speaking of broken,
well, combat knife locks you into the long slash unless you hold up an attack with it. So there's a couple of small inaccuracies that I'm nerding out over because I've spent thousands of hours in this video game. But so far, this analysis is really, really good. I'm enjoying it a lot so far.
Let's look at special attacks. As an adventurer, you either kill enemies or snuff out the flickering flames that fill every corridor, and you can pick up hearts. Now, hearts are not your health. They are your special attack ammunition. Your current special weapon is shown in the little circle by your health, and sometimes enemies, bosses, or snuffed out flames will drop special weapons. If you pick a new one up,
bosses don't really drop them, but okay.
There are multiple special weapons, and you'll use them all throughout your playthrough, and some are better than others. To use them, just hold up and press attack. You've got the axe, which arcs through the air, the holy water, which burns on the ground, the diamond ball, which bounces around and is mostly useless, or the completely unbalanced sword, which you can throw as fast as you can press attack, with no cooldown. Special weapons can help trivialize tough boss fights or hit enemies just out of reach. Seriously, what special weapon you have will decide how easy or difficult a boss fight is going to be. Now, if you're not meleeing something or cheesing it with a special attack, you might be using a spell. Symphony of the Night is interesting because you can finish the entire game and never even find a spell. I found one in my whole playthrough. Dark Metamorphosis. Using a spell needs you to input
of course you found Dark
sequence
Metamorphosis.
of button presses to activate, use up some of your mana, and then it does whatever it needs to.
Did I get much damage from the storm? No. Thankfully, there wasn't very much. The hurricane didn't really affect us too much. I didn't even lose power, but like the entire like area around me saw some like serious flooding and stuff like that. So I got insanely lucky, dude. Insanely lucky. Enjoyed the Record of Lodos War, get lit with the kids playthrough. Nice. Have I checked out the speedrun? Yeah, I've seen speedruns of it, and maybe someday I'll learn some speedrunning tech for it because I want to replay it soon. I have a plan to replay a bunch of Metroidvanias as well as like play through a bunch of Metroidvanias for the first time. I want to start making a collection of YouTube videos similar to Iron Pineapple, if you know who they are. They make Souls-like Steam game recommendations / reviews. They're very short. It's like they'll go over like 5 different Souls-like games in like one video. I want to do that, but for Metroidvanias, and I've been meaning to do this for a very long time. But it requires me to just sit down and play them. And I figured we could just find one day, maybe 2 days a week, where we sit down and just play through a bunch of Metroidvanias. I don't even think I need to finish them necessarily, but get like a decent idea for the game. Just enough to make a video on them. And if I really like the game, I will finish it. But if it's something where it like starts to drag and I'm not enjoying it, I'll just make that part of the video. Where part of my review is like, yeah, you know, like the game started off really strong, but then it started to drag. And then at that point, I kind of like lost interest and stopped playing. And I'll make that part of the review process. Yeah. I mean, they kind of go over Metroidvanias in their games because Metroidvania and Souls-like have a decent amount of crossover, but I figured it's a decent enough idea that it's worth doing. But yeah, put this back on. Have I ever speedran any of the terrible 3D Castlevania games? No, but I have played almost all of the 3D Castlevania games to various levels of enjoyment.
To do. This one steals enemy health and adds it to my own, but only if I spill blood. Specifically, blood. So I need to kill a living enemy, not an undead, and use a slashing weapon to make them bleed. I like the limitation on that because it would otherwise be very exploitable. As you fight, you'll also find relics. They are static boosts or helpful effects that can be turned on or off in the relic menu. Now, relics can increase your stats, boost your jump, summon familiars to help you. Basically, finding a relic makes you stronger, but you don't need to use it. Along with combat, you've also got to solve the problem of actually navigating the castle, and this is where the RPG, or the more linear adventure line, creeps in. At the start of the game, you can't jump very high, you can't double jump, you can't turn into mist to pass through barriers, and you can't assume your vampiric bat form to fly around. But you will unlock all of these as you adventure, and with each unlock, you'll be able to access more of the castle. Early on, you will pass a ledge you can't quite reach, or a jump.
I'm sure someone made a Dark Souls Metroidvania. Just one? brother, there's a million Dark Souls Metroidvanias that exist. There's like Salt and Sanctuary, there's Blasphemous, there's like 14 of the different like Adult Swim games. Do you remember when Adult Swim was making their own, they had their own publishing company? Like 10 of those games were Metroidvanias inspired by Dark Souls. I swear to God. Hollow Knight is another one. Like there's a million Soulsvania-esque games out there. Honestly, I think the market is oversaturated with those type of games, and I would prefer games to be closer to like Symphony of the Night and Super Metroid design philosophies, like pre-Dark Souls design philosophies, personally. I'm tired of dying and losing a resource that I use to level up. If I had $1 for every Metroidvania that I played where I died and lost a resource that was required to level up, I'd have like $14.
Come back here later when I can jump higher. You've also got buttons, switches, and elevators accessed from various places that open gates, activate or deactivate ground spikes, or open up shortcuts you'll need later, along with teleporter rooms all linked together. And once you unlock a teleporter room, you can move around the castle faster. Exploration is rewarded. If you've not been somewhere, you're half hoping it's the rest of the game and half hoping it's a save room because you've...
That is something that most Metroidvanias do a shit job of doing, and I cannot believe it because it is like a core tenet of Metroidvania in my opinion, which is you need to reward the player for exploring your game. Otherwise, they're gonna stop playing because the main content of your game is exploring the world that you made for them. Like, goddamn.
Not saved in ages and you're low on health and you don't want to go back to the last one. The castle is an absolute joy to explore. The level design, the sequence layouts, the relation of one location to the next, and the complete consistency in keeping a perfectly scaled overall environment. The place feels like a fantasy castle. The background designs, the ambient music really enhance the feeling of gothic horror. So let's look at those. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is...
As opposed to something where you die and lose all of your progress since you last saved. Yeah, I'm totally down with save point progress. That's perfectly fine with me. Just, you know, I don't need autosaves every 10 seconds. I personally find it more frustrating when you die and lose all of your money or whatever. Because at least in Symphony of the Night, when you die, at least you don't lose the money that you gained from the last time you saved. You only lose progress based off of the last time that you saved, where certain progress is just forever possible to be lost in like Dark Souls-esque games, right? I've been building up a stash of souls, right? And at any moment, even though I've been to multiple bonfires and I've saved the game, I could still lose all of those souls at any given time. Whereas in Symphony of the Night, you only lose as much progress as compared to the last time that you saved. So that's my argument.
Gorgeous. It looks stunning. I've always been a big advocate for defined graphical style over photorealism, and this game drips with style.
Bro, this game could not do photorealism back in the day.
Is mesmerizing. The flowing cape, the buttery smooth movement of his arms while running, the trailing of the cape in jumps, even the ghostly flickers of previous Alucards following him once you're at full health are visual delights. The backgrounds are detailed and elaborate, from hanging tapestries showing fantastical events to opulent hallways to dank, dark caverns. The enemy design is intricate and in some cases beautifully vile. Castlevania actually highlights one of my biggest issues with modern pixel art games. When someone says they're making a pixel art game today, they often mean they're making a minimalist game using pixels, or they're going to reduce characters down to simple block colors and justify their simplicity by saying, oh, it's pixel art. Well, back in the 90s, pixel art wasn't about how little can we get away with. It was about this: how much excessive detail can we add while limited by the pixel count? The boss fights, the moving parts, the explosions, the background effects, they are gorgeous. There's even sections using certain 3D rendered backgrounds, like the stairs at the start with a 3D clock tower in the background, or this bit where you push through a spinning bookcase to find a hidden room and the bookcase is rendered as if it were 3D. But these moments are used so infrequently, they remain special. This is why having a defined style matters more than just high-definition graphics, because style ages gracefully. If you told me this game was made last week by a big-budget team, I'd believe you, because it's beautiful. And now onto the music, and here's where I'm going to anger some of the hardcore Symphony of the Night fans.
No.
Sometimes the music is perfect. It fits, it works, it resonates with the location and the general ambience. Sometimes you're in a grand castle and it sounds like a grand castle, and the enemies' screams echo and their deaths resonate throughout the grand castle, and it flows, and sometimes it does not.
What?
I think the moment I sat back and started asking, wait, what? Was during the underground mine section, when we go from gothic high art violins and pipes to funky jazz.
Hell yeah.
Tell me if you think this music, as good as it is,
Hell yeah.
fits with the ambience they were going for.
Fuck yeah, it does. Ooh. It's a fucking banger, bro. What are you complaining about? Shit slaps. No way he's gonna diss Wandering Ghost, bro. I'm telling you, this is the best song in the game. Who cares if it fits? It's a banger.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad bit of music. None of the music in this game is bad. It
Fair.
just doesn't fit the tone of the level.
Fair.
And once you start to notice this, you'll see it crops up a lot in the second half of the game. About an hour or two in, you'll meet Maria.
Like, if he was complaining that the second castle has, like, only 3 songs in it, then that's fair. You're allowed to complain about that. That's, like, a fair complaint, in my opinion. But, like, yeah, okay. Wandering Ghost doesn't fit a Colosseum vibe. However, this is also the 90s, right? Like, video game soundtracks in the 90s, especially Castlevania songs, they were designed with this, like, jazz, like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Influence in mind, right? You look at Rondo of Blood, that game is fucking funky as hell. You look at what's the other the Sega Genesis game? That the songs on the Sega Genesis Castlevania Bloodlines are also insane. Yeah, he just hasn't played Rondo. So it's more so that the it makes sense in the context of Castlevania if you've played other Castlevania games, but if you're approaching it from a context of I like to play video games and this is my first Castlevania game, then yeah, fair, it's a little confusing. Like, that's fine. Yeah, exactly.
She wants to destroy the castle too, and later on you learn she's actually looking for Richter Belmont after he disappeared after the original confrontation with Dracula. So there's a bit of subplot, and just like Dark Souls, you can completely ignore this and keep playing.
Just like Dark Souls.
So Castlevania
Bro, that needs to be a sub notification, because I goddamn.
Symphony of the Night. It's a gorgeous
Dark Souls
pixel art, side-scrolling action-adventure game with light RPG elements focusing on skill over stats, set in a massive open castle with a pseudo-freedom of movement system, meaning while you can technically go anywhere from the start, you need to collect certain items or skill upgrades before you can actually access every place, with an optional subplot you don't need to worry about and hidden items you may never find. Cool, let's finish the entire game and ask, is it any good? So when you start the game, you'll discover it's voiced, but it's voiced to the classic standard that only PlayStation 1 games ever managed to reach.
Hell yeah.
Die, monster. You don't belong in this world.
AKA perfection.
It was not by my hand that I'm once again given flesh. I was called here by humans who wish to pay me tribute.
Tribute?
Why 2 duplicators? Each duplicator decreases my intelligence, and as you can see here, my intelligence is literally 0. If I were to take this duplicator off, it would go up to 10. I want to do as little damage as possible to increase the amount of blood that I receive from each enemy. Also, we're at 369 attack power. Let's go, gamers.
You steal men's souls and make them your slaves.
Yo, thanks for the sub. Oh, just kidding.
Perhaps the same could be said of
Get it? That's my
all
sub
religions.
notification.
Your words are as empty as your soul. Mankind ill needs a savior such as you.
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
Now here's a random
Banger.
secret I found by
You
chance.
steal men's souls and make them your slaves.
Yo, thanks, Dave, for the gifted sub.
I was jumping around as Richter and
Nice
I knocked
timing.
this brick off, which opened a button. So I hit the button and that made some steps happen, and okay, Symphony of the Night is just full of secrets.
Yep.
There are so many hidden rooms.
Yep.
I'm going to see how many I can find. Alright, we kill Dracula and we start as Alucard. Fight my way through and
Bro, there's so many secrets. I've been playing this game for well over a decade, and I still find new secrets, you know? At least they're secret to me. Like, they're new to me. I'm sure other people knew about them. But, like, I've been playing this game and speedrunning it for almost a decade, and, like, god damn, there's still so much stuff to discover. This game is just infinite in its, like, scope sometimes. At least that's the way it feels. Like, different enemy interactions and, like, weapon interactions, item interactions, like, shit like that is, like, the reason I keep coming back to this game. Also, the movement is just insane, but I would be surprised if anybody compliments the movement in this game, like, ever, because most people don't get far enough into the game to appreciate the movement most of the time.
Discover the first harsh lesson. This game is hard.
Exactly, X60. Yeah, all the time. I'm like re-remembering, like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a mechanic. Or like, oh my god, this item exists and it does this thing, and that's like super. Like, I rediscover stuff all the time as well. This game is just massive.
And these save points are brutally far apart. Saving is vital, and each trip from a save room to the next is a challenge.
I will say, if you don't know where all the save rooms are, yeah, the game can be quite tough in the beginning, especially when you're playing for the first time. Your stats are weaker than they're supposed to be. Sometimes I forget that, like, once you play on a clear file and know how to get through the Dracula fight fast, it increases your stats by so much that the game is like basically on baby easy mode a lot of the time. People all the time in my YouTube comments are like, why are you killing things in one hit? And it's like, well, because my stats are way better than yours because I finished the game or finished the prologue faster, but that's difficult to explain each time.
The opening zone of the alchemy lab has you dealing with respawning enemies, out of reach throwers, and floor spikes all at the same time.
Respawning enemies?
It wastes no time making sure you die. And make no mistakes, you will die.
To be fair, that skeleton, MLG skeleton, too good. That guy is really good at the game. What's going on with the stream? I am grinding for max level Muramasa, but because that takes over 100 hours, we're also entertaining ourselves with a little bit of React Andy time. We're reacting to YouTube videos. Let's go. Oh, the red skeletons. Okay, they technically respawn, but fine. Yeah, they do respawn. I guess I didn't think of it that way.
A lot. Now, the spectacle fights are the bosses, and there's loads of them, and they all use different attack styles, and you'll soon learn that fighting a boss is more about pattern recognition than strength or power.
Yep.
You can bait bosses into certain attacks, you can dodge, you can sometimes hit their projectiles, and positioning yourself, getting a few hits in, and then moving away will keep you alive much longer than getting into a slugging match with any of them. Symphony of the Night is a tactical action fighter, not a stat-based brawler. Killing any boss always rewards you with an increase to your maximum health, but because the enemies get stronger the deeper into the game you go, you realise you're actually just levelling the playing field, and it's your skill as a player that needs...
This is like the one guy in the world that thinks Symphony of the Night is a hard video game. Is it just me? Is it just me? Oh no, you got ads? I have to watch an ad. Boo-hoo, I'm gonna complain about it. Okay, cool. Thanks for the money. Get fucked.
Needs to improve.
Just download Adblock.
I think I speak for all Castlevania players when I say fuck enemies throwing anything. Dodging projectiles while also trying to fight and dealing with your own combat animation locks is annoying. This door is also meant to say magically sealed, but the M got cut off, so it's vagically sealed.
Yeah, they're playing on an emulator of some kind, because that's a bug. They must be playing on EPSXE or something, right? Because as far as I know, no versions that I'm aware of have that issue, so... Cool. I mean, vagically sealed is pretty funny.
Sealed. Not gonna lie, I chuckled. And if you chuckled too, you now have to like the video and subscribe to the channel. But here's something I love. This Blue Knight is just a blue version of a...
Alright, you heard him, boys. Like the video and subscribe. God damn it, you got me. Fuck. It's that easy. I need to start doing shit like that in my videos. Oh, well. Sotn PSX is expensive? Yeah, but like other versions exist. Or you could just play on an emulator that isn't dog shit. I don't know. That's just me. EPSXE has been and always will be a dog shit emulator. And it has been like the worst emulator to choose for like the past 10 years.
A Red Knight from earlier, so I'm expecting the same enemy with bigger numbers. But no, the higher versions of enemies actually have new attacks. They have a melee attack now. The game has mechanical progression, not just numerical. Meaning when you see a palette-swapped enemy, you have to think, right, what are you going to do that I've not seen before? I love this kind of progression over just pure numbers.
Saying download Adblock is a good example of self-destructive behavior. I would rather people download Adblock instead of going into chat and complaining about ads, because ads aren't going away anytime soon, right? Also, I literally make a living partially off of these ads. So if you're going to complain that, like, I don't want you to make this money, then, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, just go somewhere else or just download Adblock. I don't care. Or you could subscribe and you don't see ads on this channel ever. Like, I have zero sympathy for people complaining about ads. Everybody hates ads. Yes, it doesn't make you special for complaining about ads.
2 hours in.
I also don't care if people ad block my shit. I get it. Just I would rather people ad block my shit instead of complaining. That's all.
The hardest bosses in the game. Myself. If you had this game as a kid, how did this fight make you feel? Because
Made me
it's
feel
one
like
of
a
the
dumbass.
first bosses you bump into, and as an adult, I hate this enemy. You fight you, and you get shown how bad you are at the game when you get
Yeah.
killed by you using all the skills you have but aren't using as well. I died
Except for wing smashing.
so many times. And how did I eventually win? The same way that I'm going to win almost all the boss fights. Mechanical exploitation.
Hell
When you
yeah.
jump and move backwards, they jump and follow you, and you can
Dude, he learned the AI manip in his first playthrough. Let's go.
turn and hit them in the air, and you can repeat this absolute cheese for about 5 minutes and finally win. A bit later in, you find the Soul of Wolf, one of several soul objects you can use to turn into different forms to pass puzzles, but honestly, the Soul of Wolf is pretty much useless. I've also been collecting a load of money while
Soul of Wolf is pretty much useless. On your first playthrough, maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like on my first playthrough, I thought the wolf was pretty useless too. Like, I understand coming to that conclusion, but it's just funny from like a future perspective, realizing that the wolf is so incredibly useful overall. It just takes time. It takes experimentation. It takes stuff like that. What are we watching? We are currently watching Was It Good? Castlevania Symphony of the Night by Josh Strife Plays, who tricked me into liking the video and subscribing, which if you've made it this far in the video on YouTube, you should also like the video and subscribe. Whoa! Got him. Easy money. That's what's called being a professional
I've been
YouTuber.
playing, and I don't know where to spend it, but watching numbers go up makes my brain do the happy chemicals, so I'm going to keep collecting every bit of gold I can find. This bridge is my first real am I going the right way moment, because this bridge falls down, plunging you into a giant skull fight. It's not even a boss, it's just a regular higher level enemy. So I backtrack and try to make the jump, and I can't quite make it. And I'm not sure if this means I'm not meant to be here yet, or I'm not timing the jump well enough, but after about 30 minutes of trying, I think, yeah, I will come back here later. Open this door by just blowing it up with a cannon. I can't see this being a very practical way to build a castle. Gotta say, the colour palette for this area is gorgeous. In fact, every part of the castle is so visually distinct. We've gone from the dark grey stonework and the stormy sky of the outer wall to this deep orange and maroon interior. Every section is strikingly different.
The forbidden
and
hallway.
This is not only visually diverse, it's also a navigation tool. You remember the colour and style of the individual castle sections. By now, I'm realising one major gameplay element. This game is hard, but fair. And that's where the Dark Souls comparison is strongest.
Okay.
In video games, I see two types of player deaths. Deaths I call fair deaths, and deaths I call some bullshit deaths. Fair deaths are caused by factors you are aware of or in control of, and you die because you made a mistake. You jump into a projectile already on screen. You get greedy with attacks and you don't dodge in time. You walk into an enemy group unprepared. Or you don't use your items in situations that really need them. Fair deaths are on you. On the other hand, some bullshit deaths are where you die to some bullshit. Like an enemy throwing a projectile from off-screen, or enemies not respecting their own attack cooldowns, or random unavoidable insta-kill traps, or unblockable damage. The vast majority of Symphony of the Night is indeed very hard, but it's also very fair. Your success or failure is your responsibility, and this will remain true right up until the final fight. Run into my first linear adventure related.
See, the thing is their current comparison is Symphony of the Night is hard and fair, just like Dark Souls. And I'm like, brother in Christ, you know Dark Souls is like 90% bullshit you can't avoid, right? Like, maybe not 90%, but it's like a good 50-50, right? Dark Souls definitely has the haha, I just killed you, lol, get owned. You should have known that there was a trap on the floor, or you should have known that this was a mimic chest. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. Like, Dark Souls definitely has way more bullshit deaths than Symphony of the Night.
Blocked path. This grate telling me mist could pass. Right, gotta go and find some mist form magic somewhere. These curse balls are irritating as hell to kill. They fly around and getting hit curses you, which removes the ability to use weapons or items apart from the uncurse. Thankfully, the flames can be snuffed out to drop uncurse.
Whatever happened to the
game does
multiplayer
take pity
Castlevania
on.
game? So Castlevania Harmony of Despair still exists. And there still is like a dedicated team or group of people that will still play the game to this day, but it's obviously like not a game that is like played very often anymore, and it doesn't have any dev support, and the online's pretty bad. But I love that game. It's really, really fun. Dark Souls actually has a low level overall of bullshit traps, but almost all of the bullshit is in one place. It's more so that like the bullshit is very impactful in Dark Souls. It's like when you interact with a bullshit mechanic in Dark Souls, it will kill you and it will ruin your gameplay experience, right? If you get cursed in Dark Souls, your game save is most likely ruined unless you are prepared to deal with curse, right? There is some dumb bullshit that is like 10 out of 10 bullshit, right? But it's like not everything is 10 out of 10 bullshit. It's just that when you see a 10 out of 10 bullshit moment in Dark Souls, it really, really hurts. That's usually my estimation of that. But yeah. But I will say most of Dark Souls is pretty fair. It's mostly like a combination of people being greedy, trying to attack more often than they should, or not respecting like hordes of enemies. Stuff like that. I feel like all the bullshit was fixed in DS3. Dark Souls 3 has plenty of bullshit. It is called unseeable like attack patterns from bosses. That's usually the bullshit. And certain boss fights are bullshit, but general gameplay and like maneuvering through the world is not nearly as bullshit. But yeah, I would say it's a lot less bullshit in Dark Souls 3, but there's still bullshit. But Dark Souls is like without bullshit, it's like boneless. You know what I'm saying? Like a Dark Souls game without bullshit, it just doesn't feel right. You know what I'm saying? If I don't walk into a room and get ganked by 10 enemies and also a giant log comes over and just squishes me in the middle, like then I'm not playing a Dark Souls game.
These book enemies are awesome. They are 2.5D, sliding out of the bookshelf background and attacking you. That is such a cool effect. Finally, I meet this guy, the library.
Yeah, Dark Souls is a comedy game and the bullshit is the joke. Dude, if I had $1 for every time I literally like laughed out loud while playing Elden Ring, like just laughed out loud at the absurdity of the shit that was happening to me, dying in the most bullshit ways, it's funny. It's so funny. Like if you look at Dark Souls games as a game about comedy and laughing at misery, it's so funny. It's so funny.
Keeper. He is the game's shop and he lets me spend gold and buy items, weapons and armor. I pick up a castle map, which is super helpful, but by no means actually a complete map.
Anal rodeo.
Section with boss names. So I buy one and it's a video tutorial of how to unlock the secrets of each boss and then how to defeat them. So once you've already killed a boss, you can come back and watch a guide on how you should have killed it. Useful, I suppose, for a second run, but not too much help for a new player. Oh, those book enemies, they spit this horrific black tar style face out at you. And the reason this is so horrifying is because the black goo is a much higher resolution than the rest of the game, and it's just a static image. So there's this jarring graphical dissonance where it seems more real than the pixel art around it.
That's fair,
it's shocking, and I love it because this...
That's like the horror from Courage the Cowardly Dog, for those that watch that cartoon show. Most of the horror was derived from mixing art styles together and creating a sense of like dissonance and unease in the person that's watching. So I guess that makes sense that actually does add to the uncanniness and the horror element of this game. Because I always felt like this game, like people call it a horror game, but like honestly, like I don't really see it that way. But that makes sense. Yeah. Return the slab. That guy is CG animated. Meanwhile, the background is like painted or drawn, I guess, hand drawn, not painted. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy that mixing mediums can cause like an uneasy feeling in people.
It's the only time the game does this. It's reserved in its use of shock value. Find my first magic spell, Dark Metamorphosis.
I will say, by the way, that's probably not intentional, that the enemies look like that and are designed to be horror elements. Maybe it is, but I think he's giving the designers too much credit here because this game was made on like a shoestring budget. They probably were just messing around with 3D animation on that given day and found a way to implement it into the game, and that's probably it. Yeah, this guy's playing on EPSXE because the font is all fucked up.
I use it, and I realize the controller input to actually activate it isn't worth the time in the middle of combat, so I don't actually use it much in my playthrough. Check this out. You've got to climb this long staircase, and there are enemies specifically designed to fight on it with a diagonal stance, and I love this. Now, usually in side-scrolling games, enemies are designed to walk on flat surfaces, and stairs are just purely practical connections between levels, but no, here they said, how can we make the design element of a staircase into a gameplay mechanic? You're fighting from below. The enemy has the height advantage. They have used every part of the platformer element and added combat to it.
That is
The
actually
background
really
depth
cool.
of the chapel is gorgeous. They've used a combination of parallax scroll.
Bro, your EPSXE is showing. Hold on. I need you guys to see this in full. Bro, look at the window in the background.
To add forest depth, chapel is
It's like
gorgeous.
disappearing in the background. Come on,
scrolling.
bro. You can afford to play on something that isn't EPSXE, bro. How many subscribers you got? Bro, you got 200K subscribers. You can afford to play on a game that you could play on console if you wanted to. You didn't have to play on emulator. Come on, man. Come on. It's a disservice. Attack check, we're at 372. So we're making our way downtown, walking fast. Faces past, and I'm homebound.
Depth and 3D rendered depth into the castle, and both work really well, helping the areas stand.
This is his alt channel too? God damn, bro. Why are you playing on EPSXE? Come on. Is this familiar leveling? No, I'm leveling specifically the Muramasa, which is currently at 372 attack power out of 999.
Out as visually distinct. I've got a couple of food items, and to use them you equip them to one of your hands, return to the game, press the hand button, and then run over to the food you've dropped. This is really strengthening the comparison to Dark Souls, because it's just like using souls or items or herbs by equipping them. Climb this tower, the raging sky in the background, the ambient music.
It really feels like this person is just doing whatever they can to compare this game to Dark Souls when I don't think it's that much of a comparison. That feels a little weak personally, but whatever.
The whole section is just absolutely artistic. And now I present to you the consequences of my own actions. Symphony of the Night is a hard game, and save points are few and far between, so to make my playthrough a bit smoother because I'm a filthy casual, I've used the emulator's save state feature, basically letting me save the game anywhere. Now if you played this on PlayStation 1 and you were forced to endure long walks back to the boss, let me fill your cruel heart with schadenfreude. I quick-saved right at the start of a boss fight, not realising I have 10 hit points. I now have to kill this boss taking absolutely no hits or I fail. This was awful. So sit back and enjoy my probably rightfully deserved torture for being a filthy casual and using save states.
You know, at least they pointed it out. Like, they didn't need to add this part to the game or to the video. They were literally just calling themselves out for no reason, but that's fine. Bruh. You know, not everybody's expected to be a god gamer at this video game. That's fine. Some people are just casual game enjoyers.
And after endless resets, I did it. Hitless boss runs, here we go. Oh, check out this little Easter egg. In a conversation with Maria, you have a little thought bubble pop up as you think about Richter, and the image they use is Richter's character model from the earlier cast.
Dude, you're so close. You're so close. You're so close. Just like 2 more seconds. Oh, man. Let's just move on. It's fine. We're just going to move on.
Castlevania games. I really like that. Finally, I find my first mechanical upgrade, the Leap Stone.
Every Belmont is a Richter, right? They're basically all just Richter. It's Richter 1, Richter 2, Blue Richter, Red Richter. You know, it's fine.
This lets me double jump and opens up just a whole host of new paths around the castle, including that stupid collapsing bridge from earlier. Crossing the bridge gets me into the Clockwork Tower, which has a plethora of grinding gears in the background. And this is what pixel art games can be. This is stunning. The background has depth and intricacy while also using those mechanical elements to inspire gameplay changes like the cogs and gears moving as I stand on them. While some bosses are unloving, uncaring balls of difficulty, some are complete jokes, like this guy, and it's quite cathartic. How do you like that? Yeah, it's not nice being stun-locked in the corner, is it? Yeah, it's not fun when you can't attack back. Stupid boss. Oh cool, I have found the stairs from the opening of the game, which means the keep is up there. But the stairs are broken, and they're too high to jump. Right, I have to find another way up, and the moment I find it, we've basically finished the game. Find a stone mask head item.
My question is, okay, it's been a long time since my first playthrough. Was it really, like, intuitive to think, like, on your first playthrough, oh, I'm going to beat the game by going back to where I fought Dracula at the start of the game? Is that where people really thought, like, the game ended? Because I had no concept of that. I had no concept of finishing a video game. When I was a child, I only had the concept of playing video games until it eventually ended. I didn't play video games with the goal of beating them. I played video games for the sake of playing video games, and eventually they ended. So I never really thought about, like, what is my goal in Symphony of the Night? My goal was to have fun exploring the game and doing whatever the fuck I felt like doing on that given day. You know what I mean? So maybe my play experience is very different than others because of that, but I don't know. Yeah, if you played earlier Castlevanias, maybe that is the answer, because I played it when I was very, very young. I played it when I was like still didn't even know how to read yet young. Like I was basically a toddler my first playthrough. So I don't know.
Obviously, I'm going to equip it because nothing has ever gone wrong.
You thought to go to the
putting on a
stairway?
Random stone mask you find hidden away. Now I find the clock room, and remember this room because it will be important later. And you have to actually wait in this room for a minute before the upper path opens to you, which is a nice use of the actual mechanic of time. And here we find a rather strange plot.
See, the last video we watched, they complained about the clock statue moving, and this guy's like, "Yo, clock statue moves like with real time? That's crazy." So I don't know. Yeah, that's fair.
Plot twist: the Lord of the Castle is not Dracula, but instead Richter Belmont. He survived the fight, overtook the castle, and in this Colosseum pit boss, he throws his minions against us. Right, I guess we're actually fighting to kill Richter. I did not see that coming. Killing the Colosseum boss gets us the Mist Form spell. Finally, those pesky grates will hold me back no longer. And now, pretty quickly, this lets me find the next transformation spell, Soul of the Bat. This lets you turn into a bat and fly around. And once you've got this, the game is basically entirely open to you. In fact, once you've got this, the game can be finished. You can return to the Broken Steps, fly up to the keep using the Soul of Bat, grab the same secret items from the same secret...
They're technically different items. They're just food items and stuff in this as Alucard, but as Richter, they're like actually really powerful late game weapons. But, you know, again, not trying to be too nerdy here.
Room Richter Belmont himself unlocked earlier, and then go and fight Richter. Now, word of warning, Richter is tough as nails, and he does actually have some AoE spells like Holy Rain that will constantly drain your health.
Holy Rain.
He is fast, he hits like a truck, and you cannot stun lock
He
him.
literally
And
says
it takes me quite a
Hydrostorm,
few
come
attempts
on.
to figure out the trick. Just use the bat form to fly up to the top, wait for him to go to the side of the screen, drop down, hit once, and then repeat. It's not conventional, but it works. So Richter dies, and we get to enjoy some cheesy 90s CGI cutscene showing the castle being destroyed, and there's even an actual song over the ending credits. So, game over, right? Wrong. So very, very wrong, because what you saw there was the bad ending. And if you want the good ending, you're about a fifth of the way there. Symphony of the Night actually hides about 80% of the entire game behind a stupidly hard-to-find secret quest line.
80%?
So let's go and do that. Getting the form of the bat opens up most of the castle.
I wouldn't say saving Richter and doing the second castle is 80% of the game. That seems like a little much. 50% is even a little much. The second castle, honestly, is only like 25, maybe 30% of your total time played, honestly. Whatever.
And now begins our hunt
that
for
100%
two
value.
hidden items, a silver ring and a gold ring. And along the way, I find my first familiar, a fairy who heals me, and the gravity boost relic so I can jump even higher, which is nice, but kind of irrelevant seeing as I can fly. Find the S-Stock weapon. Now, if this game really is close to Dark Souls, I may have just found one of the best weapons in the game, but honestly, no. Using the S-Stock moves you forward as you attack and has a super long cooldown animation, meaning you lose a lot of control in fights.
AKA,
you attack
it's
into
shit.
Damage.
Yep.
High damage is not worth the loss of control. Now, entering this room throws you into a nightmare about Alucard's past, which again ties in really well with the Netflix anime adaptation. The writers really did do their homework.
I'm
you
coming,
see
mother.
Alucard's mother, a human called Lisa, being burned at the stake, and in her dying breath, she implores Alucard to kill all
Welcome,
humans.
Marks.
Except this isn't true. Alucard remembers his mother telling him to forgive humans. She loved Dracula, and it was her love for Dracula that caused the humans to hate her. Alucard remembers his mother telling him to love and forgive humans to protect them even if they are flawed. And the nightmare is caused by a succubus that you realise when you break out of this spell. The succubus is another boss fight, followed by an even more questionable voice acting, and killing the succubus gets you the gold ring, one of the first items needed.
You should have played the voice line, you coward.
For the hidden ending. Eventually, I make it all the way to the underground.
Is he worried he's going to get
cave system.
demonetized?
Remember, this entire part of the game is hidden. You won't see this unless you actually go and actively look for it.
That's
and this
fair.
tower climb section just highlights how tight the platforming controls are. And oh, check this out. My familiar actually helps me.
This is really suspicious looking.
I love that. Familiars do more than heal or fight, they help with exploration. They really have combined combat, RPG, and discovery together very well. Pushing this box to plug a leak, drown...
I like that voice line a lot. The fairy has really good voice acting in this game, in my opinion. The only way to endure Muramasa is to barely... yeah. You know, it's either this or we do, like, song suggestions again, or... I'm thinking about opening up a, like, a media share thing next time we do this. We'll see, whatever. I can't hear you over Peeping Eye. Yeah, true. Peeping Eye is just, like, a better version of that, but yeah.
These enemies, and it makes me feel good, but I can't help but think I've probably locked myself out of a secret item or something later by doing this. Here is a sequence of design elements I absolutely adore, and game designers should study why this is...
Did you enjoy Cyberpunk Edge Runners? I don't even know what the fuck that is. Are you offering me drugs right now, Anikage? Like, what? I don't know what... I've never even heard those words used in that... What? What are you... It's an anime? Oh, yeah, I don't know. I don't really watch anime, I'm sorry. Maybe someday I'll eventually become a weeb, but instead, in the meantime, I'll just do drugs instead.
So good. At the start of the corridor, there is a wooden bridge and you can see items below but not get to. So you want to break the bridge, but you can't. Then at the end, you're thrown into a very small room with an identical bridge, and a barrel-throwing zombie attacks you, and the barrel breaks the bridge, showing you how to break the bridge. Then, as you backtrack, there is a new barrel-throwing zombie in this room, but very far away from the bridge. So you've been shown an item you want to get to, blocked by a bridge, then shown the technique to reach the item, and now the game gives you enough to figure it out for yourself. Lure the zombie to the original bridge. That is a lovely sequence of game design events, all building on the previous. Strong design. A Cerberus boss, another nicely designed little encounter, and then I find the combat knife, possibly the most overpowered weapon. It is a tiny...
Why does everyone love the the combat knife is good and all, but brother in Christ, y'all ever find... Does nobody find the shield rod in their first playthrough? Gee, I guess in your first playthrough you don't find good shields to use it with most of the time, so that's fair. But, you know.
One-handed blade with a very short reach, but it has no cooldown to the next attack. You can just spam attacks and do insane damage. Now, the Catacombs does see...
Why does everybody say that, and then they immediately show footage of them literally not being able to do that, because that's not how the combat knife works. You have to hold up for the combat knife to do multiple attacks. Look at this guy. He literally... I'm going insane!
Spam attacks and do insane damage. Now...
He gets locked into the slow swing animation right there! Bro, maybe I shouldn't watch content about Symphony of the Night because my inner nerd will start showing like actually Igarashi's second game, his first game was Tokomecha Memorial dating sim Find Maria.
The Catacombs does see a difficulty jump in both combat because you've got less room to move around and navigation puzzles.
I should just shut the fuck up.
This bit. The bat form now has a sonar ability.
Maybe I should make a video on it. Dude, making videos, it's too much high effort for such a little reward for me. Instead, I'm just going to stick to playing video games and maybe reacting to other people's high-quality videos. So, you know, being a normal Twitch streamer content creator, where you probably make more money doing it that way anyways, so...
And you need to use it to navigate this pitch-black room with walls covered in spikes. And you only have...
Yeah, it's an opportunity cost thing.
Vision. It's slow, methodical, and in true me style, I got all the way to the end, then made a mistake, and died. Through the end of this route, you do get the Spike Breaker armor, which does exactly what it says on the tin. Wearing it allows you to break spikes.
Just make a video about Dark Souls and say all the same things? True. No, I'm not a big fan of video editing. I do video editing because I have to, but it's not like a passion of mine. It's not something I super like enjoy. So doing a video like this, where you spend like, where you make a video that's like 40 minutes long and it's highly edited, like that's so much. That's like dozens of hours of your time for one video. When instead I could just do a speed run and then upload it to YouTube. So I don't know. My roommate has a job. I'm not going to ask my roommate who works like 40 hours a week to also edit for me for free. If anything, I'll try and like hire an editor or something like that in the future, but hiring an editor is also expensive, and I'm honestly just barely making enough money to like afford living. So It's a work in progress. As the operation grows and my YouTube channel grows, maybe I'll be able to afford like actually hiring people.
Walk on, opening up even more secret parts of the castle. There are so many hidden optional areas in this game. There's even optional areas within optional areas. I don't need to go this way to unlock the hidden ending. I'm just exploring for the sake of exploring now. And thank God I did, because I found one of the coolest bosses in all of gaming, the Grand Floon. Stupid name, horrific, haunting design. It is a mass of tortured and mangled bodies. The boss is made of various sections, and hitting a section causes corpses to rain down and become zombies attacking you on the floor. And when you finally do slash your way through the outer shell, the middle is a tentacled monstrosity that blasts laser beams out at you.
Hell
you even
yeah.
need to use the form of bat to fly up, then drop down and attack while you're falling in the air. This is a super fun, super memorable boss encounter, and it's completely optional. Bump into Maria, more side plot is given, and get given a silver ring, which is the second item to unlock the hidden ending. With both the silver and gold rings found, return to the...
Not a horror game? Okay, like, yes, it has horror aesthetic, but it's not particularly scary, I feel like. I don't know.
clock room.
Yeah, if I hit 100k subs on YouTube, I'll make a comparison videos between Dark Souls and Sotn. I'm so down. I'll do it.
Told you this room will be important later. Wear both the rings and wait. The floor will open up and drop you down into the evil heart of the castle. Use the form of bat to fly around the edge and enter the inner sanctum, and you'll meet Maria again. She will explain that Richter is being controlled by an evil force and gives you the holy glasses. Wearing these lets you see illusions. So now head all the way back up, leave the caverns, return to the castle, head back to the battlements, fly back up and fight Richter again, but this time wear the holy glasses. Now, in the fight, you'll see a green orb flying around quite quickly. Ignore Richter, which is hard to do because he's even more aggressive now, and attack only the green orb. After doing enough damage, you'll discover it's an entity called Shaft, who has mind-controlled Richter from somewhere else and is using him to resurrect Dracula. Now you'll get to watch a different ending cutscene, showing you the sky ripping apart and an exact copy of the castle you're in falling out of the sky upside down, and then you will start the game again inside the inverted castle. And if you've got this far, congratulations, you are halfway there. Now the actual challenge begins.
I wouldn't say
You need to
halfway
fight through
there.
The entire game again, upside down, with even harder enemies, and hunt down 5 hidden pieces of Dracula to prevent the resurrection. Now the regular castle was hard, but the inverted castle is insane. Everything wants to kill you. Everything throws projectiles. They now bounce.
To be fair, if you go to the inverted clock tower at the very start of the second castle, it's fair to think that the second castle is insanely overpowered, crazy hard, because, yeah, the inverted clock tower is fucked up. But, you know, could be worse. You know? Someone didn't find Power of Mist. True!
Even more. Knights do hundreds of damage per hit. Some enemies are indestructible. This is an entire secret game, and it basically wants you dead now. Killing the opening bat gets us the Ring of Vlad. We fight through the inverted clock tower, which is packed with flying knights and possessed swords and Medusa heads that turn you to stone on contact. This place is a death trap. And all the secret areas you found before in the original castle, you can find them again. And if you look carefully, you can actually find all of the super powerful equipment that you started the game with before death took it away from you.
Yo, that's
Honestly,
hella
in some
poggers,
parts,
dude.
It's best to just avoid enemies and use the form of bat to fly over everything. And yeah, it's cheesy,
Does he get
but it's
Christogrim
also
here?
kind of
I wanna
essential
know.
to not die. Now, this enemy really reminds me of Devil May Cry. You can't tell me this is coincidence. These black cats run at you, then turn into a puddle, slide along the floor, then pop up to attack you again from behind. Exactly like that stupid mini-boss fight in the first Devil May Cry. Take down Medusa, one of the easier secret...
Could you have shown, like, video reference maybe, please? Because I've never played Devil May Cry, so, like, it would be kind of cool to see what your reference... No, it's cool. We're just going to keep moving on. All right, cool. I've never played it. I'll just believe you.
Boss fights because a shield just blocks her gaze and makes her useless, and then you meet and fight Death. Now, he was probably meant to be quite tough, but I just spammed the sword special attack and he goes down in a few seconds. I'm not going to pretend there aren't balancing issues with certain tactics. Once
Hell
you have
yeah,
all
this
5
game is
bits of
balanced
Dracula for all
perfectly.
hidden bosses in the inverted castle, return to the inverted clock
He has a DMC video? Okay, makes
room.
sense.
The clock will ring and the ceiling will open this time. So, form of the bat, fly up, fly around, and drop down into the inverted castle heart and prepare for the actual final fight. You need to fight Shaft, and there is no way around this. You're going to take damage. He has these orbs zipping around, electricity.
Somebody didn't find Power of Mist.
He's zapping between them, shields, missiles. The guy is a whirlwind of damage, and you're going to be jumping and blocking and spamming special attacks for all you are worth, but eventually he will go down, but that is not the end. Now, with no break or reprieve, you will discover Shaft has succeeded. Dracula is back, and we have to fight Dracula one final time, and this fight is hard. Now, the Dracula fight is pattern recognition taken to the extreme. His attack...
He has like 3 attacks, bro. Calm down.
Attacks can 1 or 2 hit kill you. And remember, if you were playing this on PlayStation back in the day, there's no autosave or save state before this fight. You'd have to load your save from a save room, fight all the way to Shaft, beat Shaft, sit through Dracula's intro speech, which is
Most people, honestly, they just stock up on potions and spam potions. It's not that hard, really. Like, by this time in the game, you should have a lot of potions. I don't know, man.
skippable, and then fight him with whatever health you had left. The reason these old boss fights are so tough isn't just mechanics, it's the minutes of setup each attempt takes to get to. Now, once you recognize the patterns, jump over one swiping hand, jump over the other, avoid the thrusting skulls, bat form around the triangle beam.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of using save states, is it like forces you to not engage with certain mechanics, instead just like throwing your face into the wall over and over again. To be fair, there's certain mechanics that I find frustrating, like limited continues and forcing you to start at the very beginning of the game for some old arcade games. I think using save states is fine there. Like if your only option is to restart at the very beginning of the game, that's a lot of backtracking. But if it sends you to like the beginning of a stage or to your last save point, it's not the end of the world.
Attack, bat form away from the enemy crusher, jump over the background to foreground energy ball. It is possible to do this fight taking no damage, and I mean, you basically have to do it that way. This fight is a brutal test of memorization, avoidance, and holding your nerve because it is a long fight, but eventually you will win. You take Dracula down, you get the final cutscene. The castle is destroyed, Maria and Richter are safe and free. Alucard explains his blood is still technically evil, so he'll go back into magical sleep until he's needed again. And after hours of work and an unforgiving second half of the game, you get the good ending. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is fantastic. It's a super tight, well-made action-adventure with enough RPG elements to give the player meaningful equipment choices, but it always remains focused on skill over stats. The fake-out ending leaves you wanting more, and the hidden ending delivers that more in abundance. The inverted castle is a beautiful touch. Having the entire regular map, which is already substantial, flipped and be only half the game is crazy. It looks gorgeous, it plays super smooth, and while the soundtrack doesn't always fit the environments, it is still high quality. It's a tough game, but it's a fair game. It's a game of skill, and when you take a boss down hitless or you blitz through a section, you can smile knowing it wasn't stats that carried you through that, it was your skill. So was it good? Yes. Good God, yes, it was, and it still is an incredibly good game. I didn't have any nostalgia going into this playthrough, and I loved it. I can see why this game deserves a spot on anyone's top 10 list of any games, not just PlayStation 1 games. So with hidden weapons, hidden areas, and an entire hidden plot line leading to hidden items unlocking a hidden new game with a hidden ending, to end this review I will happily award Castlevania Symphony of the Night
a miserable little pile of secrets
out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you played Castlevania Symphony of the Night when you were younger, let me know what you think of the game. Another massive thank you to all...
Goes down into the comments. Dog shit video game. No one should ever play that. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, good video. Honestly, great video. This was from, scrolling down, Josh Strife Plays. So shout outs to you. Great video. Yeah, that sure was something. Back to just normal grinding, I guess.